Hey guys, it's Caleb, back again with more Red Knot. This time we're reading the #1 New York Times bestseller, James Patterson, Mary Mary. No, seriously, that's how it's phrased on the front of the cover. This is a weird looking book. Like, for some reason, it is taller than a normal book. I don't know why, but it is, so... yeah, it's strangely long, or tall, however you want to put it. The cover is just like a chick that's mirrored. Like, all you can really see is her nose and the fact that she's wearing some really dark lipstick. I don't know if that's supposed to be red or plum. I'm not really a lipstick connoisseur. Back, is just black with a red bar at the top. The sensational #1 blockbuster seller. Blockbuster bestseller, my bad. #1 New York Times, #1 LA Times, #1 Wall Street Journal, because, yeah. #1 Boston Globe, #1 Washington Post, #1 Chicago Tribune. Somebody is murdering Hollywood's A-list. Her calling card, "You've got mail." Yeah, that totally makes sense, I guess. On a family vacation, FBI agent Alex Cross is asked to investigate the shooting of a top actress. There we go, I can say words. And an email sent to the Los Angeles Times with shocking details about the murder. Signed, Mary Smith. Oh God, really? It's gonna be one of Mary Sue Smith. That's what came to mind. And Mary Smith is, wait. Oh, I skipped a line. My bad. More killings and more emails follow, and Mary Smith is getting better every time. To hunt down this merciless killer of Tinseltown's elite, Cross must navigate a world where the stars sip San Pellegrino's at the Ivy, as hopefuls hover around studio gates with 8x10 glossies. And when the case catapults into blockbuster proportions, Cross and the LAPD scramble to find a pattern before Mary sends more chilling updates. Patterson, a brilliant storyteller, has created another uniquely horrifying villain. Mary Mary takes its place alongside his best. BookReporter.com. Diabolical Entertainment ranks among the best installments of this series. Book page. Also available as an audiobook, so if you don't want to listen to a dumb fuck called Caleb reading this shit, you can listen to some other dumb fuck reading some shit. This shit in particular. I don't know if this book is good or not. I'm just bullshitting because I feel like crap today, so... excuse, like, the sudden hyperactive randomness. I'm not sure what's going on. The most I ever do with any of these books before I read them is see about when the fourth chapter begins, so I know where to stop. I mean, you know, because it's not like the chapter headers, you know, make it obvious or anything. But I just like to, you know, make sure. Okay, and another thing I've noticed about this book is it has the first 2 chapters are in prologue, with the 3rd chapter actually being the start of the book. So that's a thing. But let's get on to it instead of listening to me talk like an insane cat girl. Prologue, the storyteller. Act 1, Scene 1. The storyteller thought to himself, and couldn't hold back a dizzying rush of anticipation. The truth was that ordinary people committed perfect crimes and perfect murders all the time, but you didn't hear about it for the simple reason that killers never got caught. That's a bunch of bullshit, and this person is clearly crazy. And neither would he, of course. That was a given in the story he was about to tell. Which didn't mean that today wasn't nerve-wracking. Actually, this was the most intense moment in the past couple of insane years. Oh my god. Give me a second. And neither would he. That was a given in the story he was about to tell. Which didn't mean that today wasn't nerve-wracking. Actually, this was the most intense moment in the past couple of insane years for him. He was ready to kill somebody, a complete stranger, and he had figured out that New York City was the right place for his first. It almost happened just outside a basement restroom in Bloomingdale's, but he didn't feel right about the location. Too crowded, even at 10:30 in the morning. In the morning? Yeah, it says in the morning. Wouldn't that be, granted, I don't know anything about New York, but yeah, I think you probably want to kill somebody at nighttime. Too noisy, and yet not noisy enough to provide the proper distraction. How would you know? Plus, he didn't like the idea of trying to escape out onto the unfamiliar territory of Lexington Avenue, or especially down into the claustrophobic IRT subway tunnels. Then it felt right. When it felt right, he'd know it, and act accordingly. So the storyteller moved on and decided to catch a flick at the Sutton Theater on East 57th Street, a funky run-down place that had obviously seen better days. Maybe this was a good place for a murder. He liked the irony, even if he was the only one who got it. Yes, maybe this was going to work out great, he thought, as he sat down in one of the two small auditoriums inside. He began to watch Kill Bill Volume 2 with 7 other Tarantino aficionados. Because that's what I want to do in a book. I want to make a reference to a movie that probably people reading my book might not have watched. Like, I don't know. I'm not... Ever since... Even when I was a teenager and would do it in stories, because I couldn't think of, like, I don't know what kind of music and stuff they'd listen to, or movies they'd watch. I never really liked putting real-world things into a story, if that makes any sense. Like, I didn't like making references to things, and I still don't like it. Still iffy about that. But, whatever. I mean, I guess a theater would be showing Kill Bill Volume 2 for some reason, though that doesn't really make any sense. Well, if it just come out by the time when this story takes place. But anyway, unless there's like some secret meaning that I'm not aware of because I haven't seen Kill Bill Volume 2 and I'm not interested in watching any of the Kill Bill movies. Well, technically it'd be either, because I think there's only 2. But anyway, which one of these unsuspecting people would be his victim? You there? The storyteller spun the hell inside his head. There were 2 loud mouths in identical New York Yankees baseball caps, worn backwards, of course. The irritating morons didn't shut up once through the interminable ads and trailers. They both deserve to die. Who cares about ads and trailers? Usually you want them to show up during the movie. Whatever. So did an atrociously dressed elderly couple. Why would they be watching this? Who didn't talk to each other at all, not once in 15 minutes before the house lights went down. Killing them would be a good deed, almost public service. Why? Because they're dressed like shit, in your opinion? A fragile-looking woman, elderly 40, seemed to be having the shakes. 2 rows in front of the moldy oldies. Wow, you're a dick. Bothering no one except him. And then a big black dude with his sneakered feet up on the seat in front of him. Rude, inconsiderate bastard in his old-school Converses that must have been at least size 14s. Next, a black-bearded movie nerd who probably had seen the movie dozens of times already and worshipped Quentin Tarantino, of course. And now I'm suddenly thinking, are you referring to cinema snob? Like, that's just what comes to my mind, a cinema snob. Oh, man. I'm so sorry that this recording is already going to shit. It started as shit and will continue to be shit. Turned out it was the bearded wonder who got up about halfway through the movie just after Uma Thurman was buried alive. Not saying that word. Who would walk out on that classic scene? Oh, so this movie hadn't recently come out. Then why is a theater showing it? Duty bound, he followed, a couple of seconds behind, out into the dingy hall, then into the men's room, which was locked near a theater too. He was actually shaking now. Was this it? His moment? His first murder? The beginning of everything he dreamed about for months? Make that years? He was pretty much on autopilot, trying not to think about anything except doing this right, then getting in and out of the movie theater without anybody noticing his face or too much else about him. The bearded guy was standing at the urinal, which was kind of good news, actually. The shot was nicely framed and art directed. Wrinkled, grungy black t-shirt that said NYU Film School with a Clapsticks logo on the back. I don't know what that is. Reminded him of a character out of Daniel Clove's comic book, and that graphic shit was hot right now. What? Do I actually need to research some movies and stuff before I read this book? I mean, I'm gonna be honest here, I really should not need, as a reader, to do any research in order to read a book for the first time. If I have to do research, you failed as an author. Everything should be explained to me, or should be explained to me in time. I should not have to be like, I don't know what that is, or what you're referring to, or why you're even referring to it. If I had some concept of what you're talking about, that would be different. So, I don't know if you mean graphic shit, as in graphic rape scenes, graphic violence, graphic gore, literal graphic shit, because I read a story like that once. It was called Star Turds. And action, he said. Then he shot the poor bearded loser in the back of the head, watched him drop like a heavy sack to the bathroom floor. Lie there, nothing moving. Lie there, nothing moving? That's a shit sentence. The blast roared through his head in the tiled room, louder than he dreamed it would be. Hey, what happened? Hey, he heard, and the storyteller whirled around as if there was an audience watching him in the men's room. 2 guys from the Sutton Theater crew had entered behind him. They must have been curious about the noise. Okay, I just kind of accidentally read the line under this one, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Just going to keep reading. Okay, 2 guys from the Sutton Theater crew had entered behind him. They must have been curious about the noise, and how much had they seen? Heart attack, he said, blurted it out. Tried to sound convincing. Man just fell over at the urinal. Help me get him up. Poor guy, he's bleeding. No panic, no effect, no second thoughts whatsoever. Everything was pure instinct now, right, wrong, or indifferent. He raised his gun and shot both theater workers as they stood, Walleyed and Dorky, at the door. He shot them again when they were down on the floor, just to be careful, professional. And now he was really shaking, legs like Jello. Stop it. But trying to walk very calmly out the men's room. Then out of the Sutton Theater onto 57th, heading east on foot, everything outside feeling completely unreal and otherworldly. Everything so bright and brassy. He'd done it. He'd killed 3 people instead of just 1. His first 3 murders. It was just practice, but he'd done it. And you know what? He could do it again. Practice makes perfect, the storyteller whispered under his breath as he hurried towards his car. His getaway car, right? God, this was the best feeling of his life. Of course, that didn't say much for his life until his life up to now, did it? But watch out from here on, just watch out, for Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Of course, he was the only one who got that. So far anyway. Well, so far I don't like this chapter. This is kind of shit. You think you can kill again in cold blood? He asked himself many times after the New York murders. You think you can stop this now that you have started? You think? The storyteller waited almost 5 months of self-torture, also known as discipline, or professionalism, or maybe cowardice, until it was his time. Then he arrived in the kill zone again, and this time it wasn't going to be practice. This was the real deal, and it wasn't a stranger who was going to die. He was just a facade in the crowd at 310 showing... are you kidding me? He was just a face in the crowd at the 310 showing of The Village at the Westwood Village Theater in Los Angeles. There were a number of patrons, which was good news for him and, he supposed, for the film's star director M. Night Shyamalan. What kind of name was that? M. Night? Self-conscious phony? Okay, I know M. Night Shyamalan is not a very good director, and granted, I don't know why his name is M. Night Shyamalan, but this guy is a dick. Apparently, Apparently, Patris Burnett was among the last people in town to see the horror film. Also, Patrice actually designed to sit in a real movie theater with real ticket buyers for her first movie fix. How quaint was that? Well, she was famous for it, wasn't she? It was Patrice... Oh my God, this name, I failed. Patrice Stick. She'd even bought her ticket ahead of time, which was how he knew she'd be there. So this wasn't target practice anymore, and everything had to be just right, and it would be. Never a doubt. The story was already written in his head. For one thing, he couldn't be spotted by anyone in the theater. So he went to the 12 o'clock. Then, when the show let out, he waited around in the bathroom stall until the 3:10. Nail-biting, nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking. Nerve-wracking. Nah. I'm trying to... Shut up. Just shut up. But nerve-thwacking ordeal, but not that bad, really. Especially since if he was spotted, he'd simply abort the mission. But the storyteller wasn't seen. At least he didn't think so, and he didn't see anyone he knew. Now, the theater had more than 100 viewers, or rather, suspects, right? At least a dozen of them were perfect for his purpose. Most important, his gun had a silencer now, something he'd learned from the thrill-packed run-through in New York City. Practice, wait, is he just calling practice? Okay, I was having a moment thinking I was stupid, but no, I'm not. That's just a weird name. Pactress sat in the balcony. Works for me, Patsy, he thought. You're being way too thoughtful, especially for you, you uber bitch. You, sir, are an asshole. He was watching her from across the aisle and a few rows behind. This was so delicious, he wanted the luxurious anticipation of revenge to go on and on. Except that he also wanted to pull the trigger and get the hell out of the Westwood Theater before something went wrong. But what could go wrong, right? When Joaquin Phoenix got stabbed by Adrian Brody, he calmly rose from his seat and went directly to Oh my God, your name sucks. He never hesitated for an instant. Excuse me, sorry, he said, and started to make his way past her, actually over her bare, skinny legs, which weren't very impressive for such an important woman in Hollywood. Not saying that. Will you watch it? She complained, which was just like her, so unnecessarily nasty and inferior sounding. Not exactly who you can expect to see next. Not that, he quipped, and wondered if Patris got his little joke. Probably not. Studio heads didn't get subtlety. Subtlety. He shot her twice, once in the heart and once right between her totally shocked, blown away eyes. There was no such thing as too dead when it came to this kind of power-mad psycho. Yourself or the person you're shooting? I'm assuming the person you're shooting, but the author is also meaning you. Patris could probably come back at you from the grave, like that reverse trapdoor ending in the original Carrie, Stephen King's first story to reach the silver screen. Then he made his perfect escape, just like in the movies. Hey. Is that a reference to something? 'Cause I don't get it. The story had begun. Part 1. The Mary Smith Murders. 2. AGRINER at LA Times, .com. From Mary Smith. Arnold Gringer squeezed his small, squinty eyes shut, put his hands over his practically hairless skull, and scrubbed his scalp hard. Oh, God save me, not another one. He was thinking, life is too short for this shit. I can't take it. I really can't take this Mary Smith deal. The LA Times newsroom... my nose. The LA Times newsroom buzzed around him, as if it were any other morning. Phones jangling, people coming and going like indoor race walkers. Someone nearby pontificating about the new fall TV lineup, as if anybody cared about the TV lineup these days. How could Gringer feel so vulnerable sitting at his own desk in his cubicle office in the middle of all of this? But he did. Xanax? Yeah, Xanax. The Xanax he'd been popping since the first Mary Smith email a week ago did absolutely nothing to hold back the spike of panic that shot through him like the needle used in a spinal tap. Panic, but also morbid curiosity. Maybe he was just an entertainment columnist, but Arnold Gringer knew a huge news story when he saw one. A blockbuster that would dominate the front page for weeks. Someone rich and famous had just been murdered in L.A. He didn't even have to read the email to know that much. Mary Smith had already proved herself to be one sick lady, and true to her word. The questions attacking his brain were who had been killed this time, and what the hell was he, Gringer, doing in the middle of this awful mess? Why me, of all people? There has to be a good reason, and if I knew it, then I'd really be freaking, wouldn't I? As he dialed 911 with a badly shaking hand, he clicked open Mary Smith's message with the other. Please, God, no one I know, no one I like. He began to read, even though everything inside told him not to. He really couldn't help himself. Oh, God. Antonia Schiefman. Oh, poor Antonia. Oh, no, why her? Antonia was one of the good people, and there weren't too many of those. To Antonia Schiefman. I guess you could call this anti-fan mail, though I used to be a fan. Anyhow, 4:30 in the morning is awfully early for a brilliant 3-time Academy Award winner and mother of 4 to leave the house and her children, don't you think? I suppose it's the price we pay for being who we are, or at least it's one of them. I was there... Get away, bug. Or at least it's one of them. I was there this morning to show you another downside of fame and fortune in Beverly Hills. It was pitch black dark when the driver came to take you to the seat. There's a sacrifice you make that your fans don't begin to appreciate. I walked right in the front gates behind the car and followed him up the driveway. Suddenly I had a feeling that your driver had to die if I wanted to get to you, but still there wasn't any pleasure in killing him. I was too nervous for that, shaking like a splatting. I don't know what that is. In a fierce storm. The gun was actually trembling in my hand when I knocked on his window. I kept it hidden behind my back and told him you'd be down in a few minutes. No problem, he said, and you know what? He barely even looked at me. Why should he? You are the star of stars, 15 million a picture I've read. I was just the maid as far as he was concerned. It felt like I was playing a bit part in one of your movies, but trust me, I was planning to steal this scene. I knew I had to do something pretty dramatic soon. He was going to wonder why I was still standing there. I didn't know if I'd be too scared to do it if he actually looked at me. But then he did, and everything just happened. I shoved the gun into his face and pulled the trigger. Such a tiny reaction, almost a reflex. A second later he was dead, just blown away. I could do pretty much whatever I wanted to now. So I walked around to the passenger side, climbed inside the car, and waited for you. Nice, dear, not blah 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 blah. Nice car, so plush and comfortable with leather, soft lighting, a bar, and a small refrigerator stocked with all your favorites. Twix bars, Antonia, shame. In a way, it was too bad you came out of the house so soon. I liked being in your limo. The quiet time, the luxury. In those few minutes I could see why you would want to be who you are, or at least who you were. My heart is beating faster just writing this, remembering the moment. You stood outside the car for a second before you opened the door for yourself, dressed down without makeup, yet still breathtaking. You couldn't see me or the dead driver through the one-way glass, but I could see you. That's how it's been all week, Antonia. I've been right there, and you've never noticed me. What an incredible moment this was for me. Me inside your car. You outside in a tweed jacket that made you look very Irish and down to earth. When you got in, I immediately locked the doors and put down the partition. You got this amazing look on your face the second you saw me. I'd seen that same look before in your movies, when you pretended to be afraid. What you probably didn't realize was that I was just as scared as you. My whole body was quivering. My teeth were hitting together. That's why I shot you before either of us could say anything. The moment went by too fast, but I had planned on that. That's what the knife was for. I just hope it isn't your children who find you. I wouldn't want them to see you that way. All they need to know is that Mommy is gone, and she's not coming back. Those poor children, Addie, Tia, Petra, Elizabeth, they're the ones I feel so sorry for. Poor babies without their mommy. Could anything be sadder? I know something that is, but that's my secret, and no one will ever know. And that's the 3 chapters. Yeah, I think the first 2 chapters were full of... Whoops. Sorry about that. Were full of, bullshit, but it's not really the kind of writing or storytelling I prefer to read, but, I'd be interested enough in continuing this, just to see why the murders are going on, or at least skip to the end and find out, which I do pretty much in books like this. But if you want to check it out, feel free to. It's alright. Nothing fantastic, despite this being a #1 bestseller on the New York Times and apparently other papers, whatever. James Patterson's Mary Mary, check it out if you like it. It's okay. not something I like reading in my spare time, but can read. And will probably skip to the end once this recording is over and check it out myself. Bye bye!